Welcome to the Principal PLN podcast, hosted by Dr. Spike Cook, Jessica Johnson, and Theresa Stager. Principal PLN is a weekly roundtable discussion about current topics in educational leadership. Be sure to follow our hosts on Twitter, at Dr. Spike Cook, at Principal J, and at Principal Stager. There are many great ways to contact the PLN. Follow the hashtag Principal PLN or at Principal PLN on Twitter. You can also search and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. All links can be found online at principalpln.com.
The 30-second take podcast begins now.
Hail! We got a big hail because we got Theresa Stager, host of the Principal PLN podcast here in Long Beach. Theresa, what is the deal?
Brad and I have been asked to podcast throughout this experience this week, and we've been having a great time doing it, as you can tell.
That's right.
Brad, the host of the 30-second take, has graciously allowed me to join him as we join our podcast together for this super fun-filled week.
It's like a double whammy, a 1-2 punch. Now, the only question is, what is the guiding question that we asked a bunch of awesome people, Theresa?
The guiding question that we asked as many people as we could find was, what advice would you give to a new administrator?
The best advice that I could give to a new principal would be to realize that there's two sides to every story. Whether you're dealing with a student situation, a staff situation, or whatever it may be, just knowing that two people are going to bring a different take. Everybody owns a bit of the truth, and I think it's very important for new people to realize that, and all people to realize that. And it goes along with that empathy piece, and the ability to walk in the shoes of another is just something, if I could go back in time, it's something that I would focus on even more as a new person.
What advice would you give to new principals?
The advice I would give to new principals is that you need to find a mentor. You need to find someone who can support you, someone who can guide you, someone who has been where you're going to be, someone who knows the ropes, and especially somebody who knows the culture of your school. So I'd say find a mentor, connect with them, and keep those connections going so you can be very, very successful.
Always make every decision based on your best teachers. You can never go wrong. So every time before you ever make a decision, just ask yourself, what do my best people think? What do my best people think? What do my best people think? And if you don't know what they think, ask them, because they'll look you in the eye and they'll tell you the truth, and they're never part of the rumor mill. The second piece of advice, I think, is you don't have to prove who's in charge. Everybody knows who's in charge. And the more you try to prove it, the more people try to prove you wrong, just like in the classroom. The great teacher never tries to prove who's in charge. Everybody knows it. The worst teacher tries to prove who's in charge all the time, and there's 25 kids trying to prove them wrong.
Visibility, visibility, visibility. Be in every classroom every day for the first 100 days of school. Get to know every student's name. That is where it starts. Can't build relationships if you're not visible. You can't build trust if you're not visible. Be seen, be out there, play kickball, sit on the floor, read to kids. Visibility.
All right, we're here with Patrice. Patrice, what is the advice that you would give a new principal?
The advice I'd give a new principal is to be consistent. No matter what programs or new novel ideas you bring to the table, they will not be effective if you're not consistent. So my advice to you is consistency, consistency, consistency.
What advice do you have for new principals?
I think for new principals, it's really important to be a good listener to everyone that you meet. I think it's great to take time with your teachers and hear what they've enjoyed so far, what their hopes are for the future, and to do the same with students. Get out as much as you can and interact with people and be a good listener.
Pierre, what advice would you give to a new principal?
First thing, get yourself a mentor. If you don't have one, go out, advertise, get yourself a mentor, because you need advice. You don't know it all, and you need an experienced person to be able to confide in, to be able to talk to be able to cry with, and to be able to cheer with. So get yourself somebody who's an experienced principal and take his or her advice.
Retiring today, we're here with Jill Flanders. Jill! Woo! Jill! What advice, Jill, would you give to a new principal?
After 27 years, I can tell you the most important thing a new principal needs to do is love their children and tell them that they love them.
We as new principal, or you as new principal, you need to get to know your student as fast as you can. and get to know them not just by their names, but also by their passions, by their talents, get to know what your students love to do. And when you find that out, share that with your teachers. Teachers need to know what our students love to do, and when they find what they love to do, include them in their lessons. With that, you will increase the level of engagement.
For a new principal, I would say be fair. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Ensure that whatever policies, protocols you put in place, it is followed and adhered to by all.
I would say reach out to your colleagues. If your colleagues aren't a collaborative team, make them a collaborative team. Reach out to them by making phone calls, email, get on social media, crowdsource questions you have, reach out to your colleagues, whether they're in your district, outside your district, or across the country.
Family community engagement. Engage your families as if your own children were going to your school, communicating with you, building relationships with you, and reflect on that often and listen to the voices of those families.
Read Principal Magazine, and if you find an article you like, reach out to that author and become a part of their PLN.
I would say it's all about culture and being the lead learner, not being afraid to make mistakes, own your mistakes, and show people how to recover from them and how you make that a learning opportunity, because you don't fail, you just fail forward and learn.
The advice that I would give to a new principal is to always remember to show appreciation to your staff. And when I say your staff, I'm not just talking about your teachers. I'm talking about your support staff, your office staff, your security staff. Everybody likes to be appreciated, even volunteers. You must show appreciation.
Hey guys, I'm here to tell you what the best advice is for the new principals. Build relationships. You need strong relationships with your teachers, with parents, and most of all, with the students. These relationships need to be personal, and they need to connect with that child so that they know what they're learning for, to accomplish their dreams.
My advice for a new principal is find the nearest Starbucks. Then you don't have to have all the answers on the spot. So find a mentor, find somebody to ask questions on Twitter, on Voxer, phone call, email, but don't feel like you have to have every answer on the spot.
So now that you've heard what all of the people here at the convention had to tell you, we want to hear from you.
Time out. Was that Todd Whitaker? Was that Todd? I just can't get over this here. Was that
Todd Whitaker?
Pinch me! Pinch me!
Todd Whitaker, Melinda Miller.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so Theresa, it has been a blast. I learned a ton. So cool. We want to hear from you. Hashtag 30-second take. What advice would you give to a new principal? Good? That's a wrap. NAESP, we out.
Thanks for sharing in the learning with us today. Remember to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes, and continue the conversation by joining the Voxer group. Links can be found at principalpln.com.